What does it take to be a great project manager? According to the Project Management Institute, there are 3 components that are all essentially important. The first thing is technical project management skills. Secondly, strategic and business management. And thirdly, project leadership skills. In this video and across my channel, I focus on the leadership skills, which are also known as the soft skills. Hi, I'm Carol Mould. For more advice and information on how to improve your leadership skills and realize your potential, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Tuesday. As an organizational psychologist, I'm fascinated by human behavior. And as a project manager, trainer, and coach, I'm inspired to help develop the skills of project managers and other professionals. In the classroom, I teach certification prep courses for Prince 2, PMP, and change management. On YouTube, I focus on the intersection of all of these areas, namely soft skills for project and change managers. So here's a picture of PMI's Talent Triangle, as I mentioned earlier. A couple of examples for the strategic and business area. That would be where we talk about things like benefits management and realization, developing our general business acumen, doing competitor analysis. In the technical side, technical project management skills would include things like estimating and scheduling, earned value management, requirements management, scope and time management. As I mentioned in this video, we're going to focus on the leadership aspects of project management. So here I've picked 7 essential leadership skills for project managers. Let's go and have a look at each one of these in turn. First of all, we'll have a look at coaching and mentoring. Coaching is an approach that encourages team members to think for themselves, which is empowering for the team member, but also beneficial for the project manager, as they will not need to answer the same question next time. So coaching is a great investment in both the team and the project. Coaching enables diversity by allowing staff to achieve their outcomes in their own unique and creative ways. A simple yet effective model for coaching is the GROW model. This is an acronym that stands for goal. So a project manager and a team member can get together with a problem, and the project manager can ask, what is the desired outcome? The next step is the reality. What is the current situation? What might be stopping the goal from being reached at the moment? The project manager can check any assumptions with their team member by asking questions such as, why do you think that might happen? Once we've looked at the goal and the current reality, the next step is to look at options. What choices are available? What different ways or journeys can they choose to reach the goal? And to use a true coaching approach, the project manager should refrain from making the suggestions, but rather ask questions so that the team member can come up with the answers themselves. They're much more likely to commit to solving the problem if they are coming up with the options themselves. And then the 4th step, will do. What will the team member do following the discussion? Project manager can gain commitment from the team member to an action and follow up as required. And this ensures that the team member takes the ownership of the problem and they need to go and run with it. Obviously, they can come back to the project manager if they need further assistance. Keep an eye out for a future video in which I'll describe the coaching process in much more detail. The second area we'll go and have a look at is conflict management. According to Rita Mulcahy, a well-known authority in project management circles, sources of conflict on projects include, and these are ranked in order, schedules, project priorities, resources, technical opinions, administrative procedures, cost, and what might surprise some of you, personality, coming only 7th of the list of sources of conflict on projects. A useful model to look at for conflict management is to look at, first of all, the relationship needs and the goals themselves. And we can put these onto 2 axes and we get 4 quadrants resulting from that. So if the need for the ongoing relationship is low and the goal, the thing that the conflict is about, is not that important anyway, then we would treat it in this way. We could just simply walk away from the problem and withdraw from that conflict. If we come to the bottom right quadrant, if the goal is really important, but the need for an ongoing relationship is low, we could be more forceful and demand that we get our way. On the top left, if the need for a relationship is high, but the goal is less important, we could smooth over the source of the conflict. In other words, pick our battles and perhaps allow the other party to get their way in the interest of having an ongoing good relationship with them. In the center, we have compromise, in which both parties are giving up some of what they want out of the conflict. The gold standard in project management, but also situationally based, if the need for an ongoing relationship is high and also the goal is of high importance, the confrontation quadrant is the one that we want to go into. This is also known as problem solving or collaboration. We need to face up to the conflict and resolve it in a way that we can try and get win-win for both parties. The third area we'll have a look at is influencing. There's some tips here from Robert Cialdini. He wrote the book called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. 6 principles that he has come up with are, first of all, reciprocity. There's a bit of give and take in influencing or persuading, commitment and consistency. The next one is social proof. So the more that general people buy into a situation or a solution, the more likely others are to join them. Fourth one is speaking from authority. The next one is having a genuine liking for one another, and if people like you, you're more likely to be able to influence them. And the last one, there's scarcity. If people believe that something is scarce, they would be more likely to want to have that item. The next one we'll look at is emotional intelligence. I did another video, which I'll pin up in the top right of the screen. And in this one, we had a look at the acronym RULER, which is a really useful model and tool to help us to deal with our emotions. It stands for recognize, to be aware of the emotion, understand where that's coming from, and then label the emotion. If you name it, you can tame it. Once we've recognized, understood, and labeled or named the emotion, then we can go about expressing our emotions in appropriate ways. And we also talked in that video about various ways to regulate our emotions. Another really important skill for a project manager is that of listening. Communication is a really big part of a project manager's role, and communication falls into both hard skills and soft skills. And a particular aspect of communication that's often overlooked is that of listening. If we look at the components of active listening, the first thing is to deliberately pay attention. You can also show that you're listening by your gestures, your facial expressions, your body language. Providing feedback is a very important part of communication, showing that you have heard what the person has said. It's also important to defer or suspend judgment. So try to listen for information and seek to understand what they're saying before we come to a conclusion or a judgment. And then the next step is to respond appropriately. The next area we'll have a look at is negotiation. For this topic, I really recommend a book by Fisher and Ury called Getting to Yes. Here are some of the main components of how they say to approach a negotiation, but it is a really good read if you'd like further information on it. The first thing is to separate the people from the problem. So deal with the issue and try not to deal with the personalities themselves. The second thing is to focus on interests rather than positions. So a little analogy that I can give you here is there are 2 children and they both want an orange. So perhaps the obvious thing to do, and there's only one orange available, is to cut the orange in half and to give each of them half of an orange. However, if we go and look at what their interests in the orange are, perhaps one of them wants to make marmalade, and so they look for the peel of the orange. The other one is hungry and wants to eat the orange. So if we just look a little bit deeper, there is a richer solution where the one that wants to make marmalade can take the whole peel of the orange, and the one that wants to eat it can take the whole inside of the orange. Look for win-win solutions rather than trying to compromise too quickly, but look at how can we best serve both parties and go into it together as partners trying to solve a problem rather than adversaries. And something else that's very important as well is to insist on having objective criteria. So for example, if we're looking for an annual price increase, link it to something like a consumer price index that's objective and obviously fair on both parties. And the last area we'll have a look at is that of team building. For this area, I've drawn some ideas from Patrick Lencioni. He wrote the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which is a very well-known book. But for this, I'd also recommend that you have a look at Overcoming the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. So whereas the first book describes the dysfunctions, the second book tells you how to overcome these dysfunctions. And that comes from building trust, mastering conflict, and we did already talk about conflict management. We need to achieve commitment and make sure that all the team members are in alignment and see the big picture and commit to achieving that big picture. We also want to embrace accountability within a team so that the team takes accountability for the project and helps each other to work together to reach that goal as a collective. And we should focus on results. So always have that big picture in mind, know what the why is of the project, why are we doing it, and make sure that everyone keeps that picture uppermost in their minds. So I hope you got some useful information out of this video. In this video, we didn't go into a lot of depth in any of the areas, but I rather wanted to give you an overview of all of them. Please have a look in the description below for a link to a download where you can have a look at each of these aspects and rate yourselves and see which of these you feel you may need to develop further. Please also have a look at my other videos in the series, and each video does go into more depth in each of the different areas. If you like this video, please give it a like, and it would really help me and support my channel if you'd subscribe to the channel and also hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Tuesday. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.